Hello, and welcome to Be Emboldened's live stream on rebuilding after religious abuse. I'm Natasha Fish, board chair. We have Naomi, our founder and executive director, joining us today to talk about all things RARA. That's our acronym for rebuilding after religious abuse. Welcome, Naomi. Good to see you here today.
Thanks. Actually, I haven't seen you in a while.
I know, right? It's nice.
Wait, it's
Well,
nice? Wait, which is nice?
oh, to see you after not seeing you for a while. Oh my gosh.
It's like, it's been nice.
No such thing.
Oh.
Oh boy. Well, we are talking about the digital course that has been our flagship course for digital courses, which is something that we are continuing to expand and release more of and grow into. But this one is all about our flagship course. And so we're going to talk about the 7 things to considerations that you need to think about as you are considering this course for you or someone else who might benefit from it. So we're going to kind of go through each module and talk about fan favorite tips as well as some good things for you to know to kind of give you a taste for what you would experience and answer some questions. So we do welcome questions in the chat. Some of you might be seeing a link. I apologize. That was not intended for you, but you should be able to open it anyways. But please check out the chat. Please send questions. We will answer those as we go through here. Naomi, anything you'd like to share to kick us off?
I think where I'm at, I mean, it's been a full week. Many who watch this may have seen the conversation that came out with Mike. And I love that conversation so much. If there's anything, any of you who have not seen it yet, who watch this, if there's anything that I've done that you watch, that is what I would pick, because it does start out with some of my story. And so anyone who just watches the first 15 to 30 minutes might think that's what it is. But the extent of my story is that first 15 to 30 minutes. And then we go through 13 different categories of what spiritual abuse often looks like. So it's across groups, it's across what I've seen through Be Emboldened, not only what I've experienced, but what I've seen through Be Emboldened over the past 5 years. And so it really creates an excellent resource for people to be able to refer back to, for you to be able to send to others. And so I wanted to, I think, speak to anyone who's new to Be Emboldened. This course is the number one way that I would recommend connecting with Be Emboldened and starting to get support. It's actually why we opened registration today, is because I knew the conversation with Mike was coming out. And so it's actually why we scheduled this. I wasn't going to do a full access version until potentially next year. And we fast tracked it because we knew that we would be reaching people who hadn't heard of us yet and have been in need of the support in the way that we offer it, which is from a biblical worldview, combining 3 things, combining lived experience, which just helps us to get it in a way that others just don't get it, and to ask questions that others wouldn't necessarily be able to catch, as well as being trained as support professionals, as well as being trained in biblical and theological studies. And so we bring all of that together. And this course, Rebuilding After Religious Abuse, it's the first one that I created because we kind of need it to just get our feet under us a bit in order to even get then to all of the other things. This is kind of like our, okay, this is foundational. Like this is what we're going to need to start to understand what is going on and start to make sense of the experiences we've had when we have experienced this form of abuse. So when I originally wrote this, it took me like, I don't know, 5 minutes to know the 7 topics, because not only had I lived them, but I was hearing them from others. And I'm like, okay, one-on-one with someone just costs more. It's just going to cost more. You have to pay contractors, you have overhead. It's just going to come at a higher cost. But something like this, if we take everything that we're needing to talk about with each of you anyway, and we put it in this format, I know it's not as personal, we're not engaging in the same way, but that's also the full access version. So please hold, because that's going to resolve part of this issue. Then you can access what would be about $2,000 in one-on-one sessions for, I think it's $279 with the full access. And you're getting like 20 hours available to you if you to attend the weekly live Q&A sessions, where you still get to ask questions of myself or Anna, who are on our team, or Therese as well, who's coming on our team. So all of that to be said, any of you, again, if you've been following us for a long time and you're like, I kind of want something, but I'm not exactly sure where to start. If you are brand new to us and you're like, okay, I heard they might have a bit of a wait list for mentoring, or mentoring's just out of budget, it's just financially not going to be as accessible for me as I wish it would be right now. This is designed not to be less than. This is designed to really meet you where you are and help you move forward and where you wanna go. Even if you are 30 years removed from your spiritual abuse experience,
Mhm.
you have not delved into these topics, I would be shocked if they are not impacting you in some way, and it's just a way of that feels normal in your functioning. And so again, I could not recommend this more. Again, it is not designed to be less than any other service. It is designed to be a more accessible way. It's also designed to be lower risk. So for anyone who's saying, I'm not comfortable meeting with other people, this is a great fit for you. For anyone who's saying, I don't even really want to talk about me, I just want to have access to the information, this is an excellent fit. For anyone who's saying, I have to hide in my closet in order to talk to someone, if I'm going to talk to someone, that's a very real reality. That's why we have the exit quickly at the top of our webpage. If that's the case, this is going to be a great fit for you because you can do it when you can do it. You have access to everything for a year. So there are a lot of benefits to this. I want to have different options for people to connect based on what feels like the lowest risk for them. The goal is to get you resources, to get you support. It's not to push you out of your comfort zone. That's not
Mhm.
gonna trigger you, and it's just going to make you shut down. It's going to make it harder. So that is those are my hopes for this course. Again, I really, really believe in it. We have more that are coming out. We have the next two are already totally recorded and done and created. So those will be coming throughout the rest of this year. But again, I was talking to my husband recently, who was a part of the recording of one of the other courses coming out this year. And he was like, I wish that we could require that everyone take rah first.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to require that anyone take it first, but we couldn't recommend more highly that you take it first because, again,
Mhm.
it's going to give you that footing.
Exactly. There's a reason it's foundational. It's our flagship course. It's the one we started with. That all was done very intentionally. And for those of you who stick around, we do have a discount code that you can use at checkout between now and midnight on June 9th. So, and please, again, put your questions in the chat. We'd love to answer them. So, we're going to go through a sneak peek of some of that content shared through 7 considerations, one from each of the modules that are part of this course. And we'll also start with just kind of how this. Well, I don't know. You've kind of talked about it, Naomi, but is there anything else you'd want to add related to like how this course came to be? I mean, you shared like this is what you would have wanted or needed. This is kind of the basics and what, like you just said, we wish all people would take it as kind of a prereq, if you will.
It's something that I could have accessed myself, even if I was still living at home or I was still in that environment where I would have maybe been hiding in a closet. It's something I could have accessed. Again, you have access for a full year. You get a module each week for 7 weeks. It's called a dripped format. And so every week for 7 weeks, you'll get the content for that week, but you don't lose the previous week. So I encourage you, if you list, like, say you get to week 3 and you're like, whoa, wow, I need to really
Yeah.
like take some time with that information. Like I am processing, I am thinking back through and reframing things. I need to pause here. You can pause there and then you can pick back up. You can
Mhm.
also wait and you can skip around. The course is designed to build from week to week, so I don't think you'll get as good of an experience if you do that, but you can. I have had a couple of occasions where I've recommended that to someone because of a specific issue they had in that moment. Like if they were specifically really wrestling through some boundary stuff, I was like, you might want to skip to boundaries. But even with that, I've had people come back and say, I skipped to boundaries. I'm glad I got that information. But then when I went back, I'm like, I can see why you went in the order you did.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it just works. It makes sense.
Mhm.
And fortunately and unfortunately, it makes sense because I lived it. Like I did it. And so I, uh, again, fortunately, yet unfortunately, have that insight.
Mhm.
And if it's a bit different for you, go through it a bit different for you. You are welcome to do that. This is the way where it seemed to flow and it seemed to build. So yeah, I knew that these were all things that I had to work through. And again, I was seeing them on repeat with everyone else. At some point in the relationship, we touch on these things, some more in depth, some a little bit lighter. And I'm like, how can I get this out? Because I want everyone to have access to this.
Mhm.
Not everyone's going to have access to one-on-one, and everyone doesn't need to have access to one-on-one. We can do this in a different way.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned how it builds and how the order matters. And so we're going to start with module 1, which is about grief and why grief is the first thing that we should be talking about in this context. So what do we need to consider about grief?
So the reason I started out with grief is because no one experienced spiritual abuse and does so without suffering losses. And something that oftentimes gets missed, and I will speak to now, Be Emboldened, we are connected with people, even one-on-one, even in mentoring, we are connected with people all over the world. So we figure out time zones, we do all of that stuff, which is another pro actually of this course, though, is that time that doesn't even matter what the time zone is. But I'm going to bring this into culture here in the United States, so I know it's not exclusively so. We do a really bad job with grief as a culture.
Yeah.
We don't like suffering. We don't want to feel sad. We don't like when others feel sad. We want them to think we know it's ultimately working out somehow, but when I think about eternal perspective, but in the here and now, and until I breathe my last breath, I am likely going to grieve some of the same things. Like, I am going to feel some pain. When I think about the loss of my mom, I can still have tears. It can still hurt my heart. Some may have noticed actually in that conversation with Mike when he asked me about my dad, I got choked up in that, imagining that could have happened. Now, that's not going to happen because he's passed. But when it comes to grief, it's not something that we can just skip past. It is a real emotion. We see lamenting in scripture. It is good. It is as it should be. It is okay. And like I said, well, for us to feel those things. And the losses that we suffer can look different and even be more apt to get missed because they're not always tangible. Now, oftentimes they are. I know I just shared I've had tangible losses in my life of all kinds, but I've also had intangible losses. And I think those are more difficult for us to communicate and therefore more difficult for us to be supported in because they're not recognized as forms of losses. So I'm thinking about like worldview, how the framework through which you saw everything, secondary losses that you take in your calendar rhythm from the group, the so-called family maybe that you had been a part of that you're now no longer a part of. Those are all significant and they really deeply impact us, and they impact us throughout the year as we come upon different seasons that used to look very different. And so I wanted to start this course with grief because I think we need to start there. I think we need to start by pressing pause and saying, yeah, I've been hurt. I may very much still be hurting. I may very much still be grieving. Maybe I've been okay for a few years, but I have my moments. I have my days. I have my weeks, whatever that looks like. Maybe something hits differently one year versus a different year. And so I want to meet people there. And for anyone who has felt like their losses have been dismissed, this is not a course where that will happen.
Yeah, that's good. So the next module is focused on trauma. What do we need to consider when we think about trauma?
So trauma is one of those words that, again, it's sticking here in US culture because I know we have listeners, viewers everywhere. Trauma can get minimized. It's kind of became like a hot button word, like, oh my gosh, I'm traumatized because Starbucks was out of their non-dairy cold foam. I'm not traumatized by that. I'm bummed, but I'm not traumatized by that. So it's got a little bit of a bad rep. It's gotten a bit overused, and I get that. I'm not coming at people who use it in like a playful way. I think even support professionals sometimes will use it playfully with one another because we're being silly or we're joking around. But it has caused confusion, I think, over like, what is trauma actually? And I get a lot of questions about, was this abuse? Was this trauma? How do I know? And so we cover what it actually is. We go through, this one gets kind of nerdy, y'all. I mean, this one, we do get into like a decent dive on what the physiological impact is of trauma, what actually happens in your body, everything that gets involved. It makes a lot of sense out of why you may experience triggers to some degree or another, which is actually our third topic. So we'll go back there in a second. So it's going to make sense of a lot of that for you. We also give tips and tools, though, like practical resources for what you can do in order to help your body when you are feeling that upregulation, when you're feeling activated, when you're feeling your nervous system kind of taking over and you're revved up and your prefrontal cortex isn't working so great anymore. So you're not able to make those really good, critical, thought out decisions like you may want to. Like, okay, what do I do in that moment? I'm just kind of reacting and I don't feel like I am able to really think well and behave in the way that I want to and make the decisions that I want to. And so understanding why that's happening, how that came to be, also feeling grateful that we have neuroplasticity. So your brain can change again when we have these responses that maybe are maladaptive, also may not be. You may be picking up on something that is similar and you might need to get out. So again, we're not going to just dismiss it, but we're going to press pause. We're going to proceed with caution. We're going to investigate. So we go through, again, these tips as well. We talk about building a toolbox actually in the third one with triggers. So Natasha, I'm sorry, I'm just, they go so well together. It's just hard for me to separate them out. So we talk about how do we build a toolbox in anticipation of those moments when we feel ourselves starting to escalate? How do we approach calming down? And we talk about something that you can do in preparation so that you're supported. When this stops working, you just need to open up your toolbox, your toolkit, and you just need to dig into it. And so again, this is educational. It's also got those practical pieces of how you can support yourself. And it's also not just me. So for those of you who did listen to myself and Mike for 4.5 hours and would like to hear someone else, you will get to do that. So we have 3 other real life survivors, Kelsey, Zoe, and Jordan, who are incredibly vulnerable. This was not scripted. We have a mix of this with me offering education at the camera and myself and 3 other survivors all together with different camera angles and all of that, having real conversation. So asking questions and dialoguing and real emotion. I mean, Jordan gets really angry at one point. He's upset. We have tears at a couple of points. I think the random burst of laughter was potentially edited out, but if you want the bloopers and you go through the course, I will show you the bloopers. The bloopers for this one are absolutely hysterical. And so I'm like, I don't just post them, but for anyone who goes through the course and feels like they have connected with the 4 of us, I'm happy to share the bloopers with you. So if that's motivation, check it out. But so you get to connect with various viewpoints too. And I love hearing after someone's completed this course, who they've connected with. And it's really neat to see, be like, wow, I really connected with this person and what they're sharing of their experience. So again, this is done in a unique way. And I got some pushback when I was initially planning how I wanted to record this, just because it's a lot harder to do. I can just sit here and just record something. This is a way bigger deal. I mean, we needed property. We needed a recording team to come in. We needed volunteer survivors who were safe, who were in a healthy place where this was going to be okay for them. We want to make sure they're well supported. I mean, it's a way bigger editing project. This would require almost none. I mean, it's just a way bigger project to take on. And I just thought it was really, really important. And I totally stand by it. We've done it for our other digital courses as well, again, that are coming out later this year. And I hope that you see the benefit from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Naomi, because like people might hear digital course and think content, slide decks, maybe a video from Naomi. But what is so special about this is the dynamic, the relational dynamic that you get to witness and connect with. And the different people really do come from different backgrounds. So it's been really cool to hear how people watching the course do connect with different people. So it's encouraging to think about there's going to be someone you probably connect with, and getting to hear their story from them unscripted is really special. So we kind of dived into triggers, which Naomi already mentioned. That's the next module. Some people may not know what a trigger is, so maybe we can start with defining that. And then I would love to hear more about the toolbox. People may not know exactly what that is. Is that a metaphorical toolbox? Is there a hammer in there? So tell us about triggers and the toolbox.
So a trigger is something that actually physiologically happens in your body. So if I were to say, now again, more kind of used loosely, I could say, I can't even say what this. I was triggered by them being out of my non-dairy. This didn't even happen recently. I'm totally making this up. But I am a non-dairy person. I have a dairy allergy, and the non-dairy cold foam game is just like amazing right now at Starbucks. This is not sponsored. That would be nice, but no. we would disagree with some things. But anyway, so I I think again, it can be used more flippantly, like, oh my gosh, that was so triggering, or that was so, and it can be used in a way that still has some merit where someone is basically saying, that was upsetting. That reminded me of something that was upsetting. So we could have more of like this low grade kind of mild, like, ooh, I kind of felt like a little uptick. Maybe my shoulders went up a little bit. I tensed a little bit. Like I'm a little like, ooh, I'm on guard. I'm on alert. And so that could be a mild trigger. We can also have like a full blown, again, prefrontal cortex is going offline. There's a lot happening in our bodies at that point. Again, we'll get more into the science. There's some that will overlap with module 2, and then there's some new science that we'll get to as well in module 3. And so the way our bodies and our brains have been designed is really incredible. I mean, we've been designed to be able to physiologically, as well as in other ways, keep ourselves safe. And what can happen is it can become maladaptive. So, for example, in my own story, if I show up to a church that I want to go to, I have vetted it, I want to go to it, and I go and I still feel, I'm like feeling like I can't be in here. This is really, really hard. Okay, well, now it might be serving. Now, as long as I step back and I'm like, no, there isn't actually anything to be leery of here, because sometimes there are. I've had that happen where I'm like, I am feeling like something's off, and something was off. So again, we don't just dismiss that. We just need to pause and be cautious and check it out. There are other times where it's been fine. It's just that my brain is flipping through its memory files really, really fast. And it's like, this is a match. It's like a matching game. Okay, this is a match. This looks the same. Well, it does look the same. It's still a church building. That's an incredibly difficult thing for a survivor of spiritual abuse to do, is to walk back into a space that looks the same. The liturgy may be very much the same. There could be so much that is so similar. It's really, really difficult to do. And it's actually something we don't ask survivors of other kinds of abuses to do most often. We actually don't ask that of them. And so this is a really big deal. And so if I'm walking in, I'm like, okay, no, things do check out. This is okay. I am just feeling this. It is maladaptive. I'm then wanting to rewire that within myself so that I can walk in and feel safe, feel like I have a sense of choice again. I have a sense of control, because if I don't, I could end up never doing something again that I want to do. I'm using church as an example, just because it's an easy one. But you could apply this to so many things. I could end up not doing something again that I actually desire to do because of what happened to me before. Personally, that doesn't sit well with me. I want to be able to do the things that I want to be able to do. And I don't want what someone else did to me to rob me of that any longer, because they already took enough from me. And so I don't want them to get to do it anymore. It's going to take me time to get where I want to get to, but there are things I can do to help myself get there. And again, using going to church is just like a low-hanging, easy example for those of us who have experienced spiritual abuse, but it's not even always at a church. Parachurch organization, on the mission field, in your household, oftentimes happens in relationships. So this can look like a lot of different things.
Yeah. And then to actually help people, you suggest a toolbox and you go through like what that actually looks like. When you get triggered, what do you do?
So there's a lot that could go into responding to that question. What I'll mention here is we go through the toolbox. We talk about your 5 senses. So we're talking about what can you do for each of your 5 senses that's going to help calm your nervous system, so that you are able to, again, have your prefrontal cortex come back online again, start functioning again. That's what enables you to really think through, is this adaptive? Is this maladaptive? Do I maybe not know? What do I need to do to find out? How am I going to respond in this moment so that I'm even able to do that? Preparing a toolbox in advance is going to help bring that back online so that you are able to make choices for your next steps.
Yeah, that's good. And you'll hear more about it if you take the course. So it's very practical and very helpful. It's not just knowledge, it's actual tools that will help in real life situations. Another practical understanding and thing to practice that we talk about is in the next module. Module 4 talks about boundaries. So what's the rule of thumb that people should know about boundaries?
Boundaries is such an important conversation. Oftentimes, if you were in a spiritually abusive environment that included high control, boundaries typically went in one direction. It was whatever the person who wanted the control said, and you had to adhere to their boundaries, and you probably didn't get to have any. This is a brand new word, actually, for a lot of people I speak with, let alone considering how it may or may not apply in their life and what they're wanting it to look like. And one idea that I share is this idea of a rule of thumb. And so, say, for example, you came out of an environment where you were to say yes for everything. It's like volunteer until you are literally falling into the ground. An example could be, okay, any request for my resources, whether it be time or money, maybe you were in an environment where it was like give, give, give. And so for any kind of resource, you're like, okay, any request of any of my resources being my capacity, my time, my finances, something I own, letting someone borrow it, I am going to just have a 24-hour rule where I just don't respond for 24 hours. And if someone's needing me to respond quicker, and I'm just not sure, the answer is just going to be no, because I just don't have time to process it through. And that is something that I have used and sometimes failed to. And every time I failed to, I have regretted it. Literally, it's got to be every time. I'm always like, because something can sound so, oh yeah, of course, or oh my gosh, that's a great opportunity, or why wouldn't I want to do that? Of course I want to do that. It could very much be that you want to do it. You just might not be able to do it this weekend. You might need to have until next weekend to do it. And so it's not even always like a full yes or a full no. It could be, oh, we kind of need to negotiate the terms here. Like I might not be able to exactly do it this way. I could do it in this way though. And so typically whenever it's like, oh, this is like a slam dunk, yes, of course, if I give it 24 to 48 hours, I will have follow-up questions, or I'll have a timeline change. I'll have a way that I have to tweak it, or it's just, oh my gosh, like I would really love to do that, but I really just can't right now. I'm not gonna be able to do it in the way I'd want to do it. I'm not gonna be able to do it well. I'm too stretched. It's whatever it is. My son has this, my husband has that, I have something. So having a rule of thumb can give those of us who are learning this just a buffer time frame before we jump in and then potentially regret it. So it's just going to give us that buffer. It also takes away what could feel personal to those in our lives, because we could let them know, hey, I have a rule of thumb. It's not really a what you ask kind of thing. I just have a rule of thumb of I think about it. I pray about it. I whatever. Don't just, and you could say you pray. Please, if you say that, actually do it, of course. But because it could just be like, I'll pray about it. Okay, I'll tell you no tomorrow. No, actually, I would say whatever is actually true. Like, but I have a rule of thumb. I just don't, it's nothing specific. I had someone recently tell me a decision that they make in relation to their child. They tell people isn't actually a decision we make on trust. It's just a blanketed decision we've made. The answer is always no. It has nothing to do with if we trust someone or not. The answer is always no. And so I think there's a similarity here. And it's not about I want to or I don't, or I love you or I don't, or whatever it is. It's just about I give it 24 hours and that's just what I do. And there are people, of course, who will push back, especially whenever we're making a change in our boundaries. There's going to be kind of a time of recalibration, a time of adjustment for those that we're setting the new boundaries with. It oftentimes is taken personal. We get into those things in the course as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the subtitle for that module, Boundaries, a New Way of Life. And the next module, number 5, has a great title, Authentic Self, Finding Your Design. So can you tease out for us, what do you mean by the authentic self? What is that concept?
Sure. So I've also heard, since we created this, I've also heard the idea of like a false self, which I think is interesting. It's not quite used. I don't know. I haven't found like the perfect way to refer to this. The fact that I went with authentic self, some of you may be like, oh, I bet she got herself into some trouble with that one. I did get myself into some trouble with that one because it is a term that can be used in the new age or in more of like a universalist way. That's not how I'm using it. The subtitle is really important. The two have to go together. Mm-hmm. So I am pointing to the design that we have. And so our authentic selves is how we are designed in the image of God, and we are uniquely designed. That is a part of what we're going to touch on in this module, because those of us who have come out of different environments, and this doesn't always have to be high control in general, it can be any kind of environment where people are, the tactics can be different, but ultimately we're all going to be very much the same. And the result is people come out of those environments and they have no idea who they are. If they've been raised in them, they don't even have a reference point to go back to of who they were before this experience. Inevitably, they're still going to be changed in ways by this experience, but it can be helpful at least to have like a reference point to before. Not everybody has a before reference point. I know I didn't have one. And so who am I? I have an example. My dad, he, in all fairness, he was a depression baby. He was born in the early 30s. He was born in 1932, which you're probably like, Naomi, you don't look old enough to have had. Yeah, he was 52 when I was born. I turned 40 here in a couple of weeks. So he would have been so, oh my goodness. Yes, he could have been my grandfather. But he had a mentality of everything has to be a very specific way, as many cult leaders do. And his rule was that you had to put syrup on cream of wheat, which I love cream of wheat. It's so good. And you had to put brown sugar on oatmeal. And I'm such a little old lady. I totally had oatmeal for dinner a couple days ago. So, but that was the rule. And it was wrong if you put anything else on them. It was wrong. Like I would like, I mean, he was abusive. So like I'd like probably get thrown into a wall. So, I mean, that's obviously extreme, but it was still like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, this is the right way to do it. So I remember at one point in my 20s, I'm like, I'm just going to try to flip them and see if I like it. Now, I didn't actually like it. So I do like it better this way, but it's not right or wrong. And it could also be my taste buds have developed this way. So I don't know how that works. I have not studied taste buds, the science of taste buds, but anyone else who has come from anything where you're like, oh gosh, okay, this is a semi-funny example. In ways it's like, good heavens. But anyone who kind of resonates with this, like, there really is this exploration of what do I even like? So you are, again, a uniquely designed individual. And so you're going to have different likes and dislikes than some of those around you. Now you'll have common interests with some of those around you too, most likely, but there is room for you to be who you are and for you to prefer whatever it is that you want on your oatmeal, or to hate oatmeal and be like, I want to chew my food. I don't want to gum my food. I still have teeth. I want to use them. Okay. So there's room for that. And those of us who have come from certain kinds of environments, we've lost that for ourselves. Like, can lose the ability to read a novel just because it's fun, because everything has to be educational. There's so many ways that this can look. And so when we talk about finding your authentic self, we're talking about how do we slow down and how do we actually start to know the answers to these things? Like if someone were to ask you like, oh, what's your favorite this? Do you hate that question? I've always hated that question. Or if someone were to ask you, what's your hobbies? And it's like, I didn't have any, like, have you ever had hobbies, or were you always working for the group, or were you always having to produce? Is it okay to like to just go for a walk? Is it okay to go for a walk and not listen to a sermon from your teacher? And so there's kind of a getting to know yourself. And we also do point to the design that we have as the Imago Dei, made in the image of God.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Our penultimate module is about trust. So we've been building up to this point of getting to a place of asking the question, what do we need to know about trusting again after all of this?
Trusting is hard. It is so hard. And that is actually one of the inspirations, even for having a course like this, is it can require less for someone to say, I'm going to sit in my own space and I'm going to watch these modules, versus, no, I'm going to show up on a call, a virtual call, face to face in real time, and talk with Naomi or Anna, or, like I'm going to do that. Like it's a different kind of ask. And some would feel a lot safer just saying, yeah, I just want to talk to Naomi. I've heard enough of her videos. I feel like I've established a rapport and some base trust there. Like that feels a lot safer. So again, it depends on the person, but trusting is hard. And it's fair. You came by that honestly, if that resonates with you, because you did trust and it went very, very poorly. And so typically what we move through is, how do I trust others again? Typically that ends up backing up to, how do I trust my assessment of others? How do I trust my discernment and choosing others to have in my life? The abuse is always on the abuser. So I want to mention that right now. What have we gained from that experience? What knowledge do we now have that we just didn't before, that we can bring forward with us to inform our relationships moving forward? And then I would say oftentimes that backs up one step further to, can I trust God? So where was he in that? Who is he? Is he actually good? And how can I know that? Because this wasn't good and he didn't seem to protect me from it. And so that's a very fair question. We mentioned that in this, but it's a big part of the next course that's coming out called Can I? And it's 7 questions about God and Christianity. And so that is, we have the very first 2 modules are on God, his attributes, and God, the problem of evil. So can I trust God is the question for the can I. So the can I is all questions. Can I this? Can I that? Like, can I trust that Jesus is God? Can I? So anyway, we're not really talking about that one right now, but if that connects for you, it will build on what you've done in this course.
Yep. And the final module is about community, which I'm so glad we wait to the end to talk about that, because these other pieces really have to fall in place before we can even begin to talk about community. What do we need to know about community?
Yeah. So community is also really hard. And of course, it's hard because all of these other things are going on. Exactly like you said, Natasha, like we address these others first so that we hopefully can have our feet under us more to be able to connect. And I want to be very clear here. When I'm saying community right now, I'm not talking about church community specific. So this can relate to joining a book club, joining a volleyball summer league, a softball league, whatever it may be. It can be really difficult to even connect with a homeschool group or whatever, like a business professional, something or other that gathers. Like any kind of I'm getting together with other people could be really, really challenging for those of us who have experienced spiritual abuse. And so I just want to make sure that, because I know I say certain words that will typically mean certain things. And so I just want to broaden my definition of what we're talking about here, because I am talking about it in a broader sense. And so we talk through quite a few things in this module, but one of the things that we focus on is how can we go about this in a way that, again, is going to minimize risk? Just like I want to minimize risk for you through this course. I want to minimize risk for you, a sense of risk for you when you are stepping out and you're engaging others. So we talk about, for example, checking out what's available to read or listen to first. Like, what can you gain that's totally no risk because nobody even knows you're gathering that information? And then how do you dip your toe in? Say you want to meet up with someone. You're like, okay, this person asked me for coffee. Like, it would be good to get out socially. I'm going to try to do that. I am feeling kind of isolated. Or we learned in modules 1 and 2 about something called tachykynin and something about how this works in our physiological system when we're isolated for too long, especially after a trauma or after a trigger, and how it can actually work against us. This is true. We get into this in the course. And so I want to try to get out there a bit. Something that can be so helpful is to bookend your time frame and getting together with someone. So if you're going to schedule a coffee, schedule it before you have your doctor's appointment, so that you literally have to go. Now, you might end up being sad because maybe it's going like really great and you're like, oh, I really wish that I had met with them this afternoon. I had the whole afternoon open. It's better to leave yourself wanting to see them again than to feel stuck and like you can't get out. And so it can calm anxiety and make it feel more accessible to us to be like, I'm going to go, I have an hour, and then I can always meet up with them again. So we go through ideas like this. I also share a set of questions that I highly recommend engaging in if you are looking at certain types of community. So we share those questions for you to be able to ask.
That's great. Well, that is kind of the gist and kind of the big points that we want to just give you a taste for what kind of content and what you're going to be experiencing as you go through this digital course. We welcome any questions in the chat, so feel free to ask those. We have a couple prepared that we'll just kind of go through that are kind of our frequently asked questions. So we'll start with those, and if anyone adds questions to the chat, we'll get to those as we can. So Naomi, can you clarify the times of when the course is dropping as well as the live Q&A? How does that work?
Sure. So the course registration's open today. I haven't checked to see if anyone has registered yet, but technically it went live last night. So someone may have seen it. Our webmaster wanted to make sure it was working, so he went ahead and pushed it out. So it is live. So registration's open right now. It's going to close on the end of day on May 4th. So Sunday, May 4th. Do I have that date right? Sunday, May 4th. And then the course module 1 will release on Monday, May 5th. And again, it'll release every week then for 7 weeks. What makes this different from what we've done in the past, and the reason we're calling it a full access course, is because in the past, we've just done one live Q&A at the end of the whole thing. With this version, we're doing a live Q&A every single week. So that's 6 additional hours of contact with our team, which I love this. Like, I love that we're getting to do this because questions just come up along the way. It's a lot to have to track them as you go. And when we do have questions, it's just helpful to have them acknowledged sooner rather than like waiting weeks and weeks for it. I think it's just going to help move you along in a way that will hopefully be more helpful and more healing than the just regular option. And so this, again, it's full access for that reason. So there's a live Q&A every Wednesday, starting that Wednesday, May 7th, and it'll run through the last week, that 7th week. And it is from 4:30 to 5:30 Central Time. So 5:30 to 6:30 Eastern Time, 3:30 to 4:30 Mountain Time, 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific Time, and onward from there. And please remember, again, if you are in another country, you are so welcome to do this. We have had the honor of having people show up. I don't know what time it was necessarily. I know we had someone from the UK where it was like really, really early. Please, you don't have to do that either, but you're welcome to. So the live Q&A is fully optional. You do not have to show up to any of them. Like, please no, you don't have to. This is something that you have to do. It's not a requirement. It's just another connection point that we wanted to make available to you in order to hopefully come alongside you more. You can have your camera off. You can have yourself muted. You can put in a fake name. You don't have to show up. It is through Zoom. You don't have to show up and be known. That is not a requirement. If you want to show up and just listen, that's okay. If you want to show up and you want to do any kind of variance of that, like you don't want to be muted because you do have questions, but you want your camera off and you don't want people to know your name, please, you are welcome to do that. If everyone shows up and everyone's muted and everyone's cameras are off, I'll just say hi and smile for a little while, and I guess then we'll call it. But typically, some are wanting to ask questions. You can type them into the chat if you want to, if you would prefer not to, use your voice. This is designed for you. So there isn't a requirement in what this has to look like. And for anyone who's maybe nervous about anybody else who might be participating, you might be like, gosh, what if someone else from my group is going to show up? I've had that question before. You're welcome again to show up with a pseudonym, have your camera off and get a feel for that first. You could then maybe show up with camera on the next time. It's up to you. So again, you can go about this in the way that's going to feel safest for you. We also do have a code of conduct for any time, any of us gather. It has never been an issue. I've literally never had to talk to someone about it, but we will share that. And it's really just about, we recognize that not everyone in the room is in the same place that we are. We may not all have those same worldviews at this time. We're going to be respectful of that. We're going to be courteous to one another. Very simple stuff, just to, again, help ensure that people feel safe. Absolutely. It also is family friendly. I want to mention that as well. So if you're a mom or a dad or grandpa or aunt or whomever, big sister's got little brother there with you, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for your family, it's okay. So yeah, just simple stuff like babies crying, mute, it's simple. So yeah, we want people to know that, like, show up if you'd like to show up. Please don't feel like it has to be super formal. It doesn't have to be super formal.
Yeah, that's great. We got a great question from Jordan. Would this course be fitting for someone who's not sure if what they went through qualifies as religious abuse?
Absolutely. It's going to help bring clarity to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to help bring clarity. And I think if you're someone who I will also say, if you have experienced spiritual abuse alongside other kinds of abuse, that happens a lot. It is tragic and it happens a lot, where spiritual abuse is woven into physical, sexual, neglect, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. These conversations are going to be relevant to the other forms of abuse you have experienced as well.
Absolutely. And I would say, even if you haven't experienced religious abuse and you're just wanting to learn more about it, this course is incredibly helpful to understand what people have gone through.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And we've had many who have done that and have given us the feedback of, okay, this was eye-opening. I have a better understanding, because you're listening to 4 real life survivors and we're sharing information based on these experiences and we're responding based on that lens. And so there's a lot that can be gained just through the observing. And so I have absolutely I've had pastors go through it. I've had support professionals go through it. I've had loved ones go through it, and people are appreciating it through that lens as well. So I would highly recommend if you fall into that category.
That's great. Naomi, can you talk a little bit more in depth about the rationale behind offering this course on a drip content format every so often instead of at any time?
Yeah. So the other option is called on demand, and on demand is just you purchase the course and you just get all of it right away. And so that can be an option as well. It's not live right now because we're running this, but there's pros and cons to both. I think the pro of the drip is that it's been proven through studies. So there have been studies, so there's some stats on this of the percentage for the completion rate of a course that is dripped versus on demand. And dripped has a better completion rate because it tends to get overwhelming to have it all at one time, especially for those of us who have experienced trauma. We can be already struggling with some anxiety, some sense of overwhelm with day-to-day life. So to have all of that come at us at once can feel like an unsaid expectation. And we can have a perception of, I'm supposed to get through all of this. And so it just helps give us the structure and hopefully remove some of that may be going on. With that being said, because this is also a full access course, it's important that it's dripped versus all at once because it helps gauge what we're answering questions about each week. So it pairs better. So if we're talking about boundaries in week 4, we're going to be addressing questions from boundaries in week 4. Now, I will say, if you're like, I've only gotten through 2 weeks because life happened and you've got a question from a previous week, you're welcome to still bring that question. It's not like you can't, but I think it just helps kind of keep us kind of tracking a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. I love this question that just got asked from Church Reform Initiative. Would you recommend this course for non-Christians?
Absolutely. Yes, I would recommend this for non-Christians. And that would be because, one, it's informed by a Christian worldview. Science is still science. So when we're talking about what goes on in the body, this is still what goes on in the body. Now, I'm crediting the Lord for having designed me this way. A non-Christian will not do that. The information of what's going on in my body is still the same. Yeah. And when I'm talking about trusting again, when I'm talking about boundaries, when I'm talking about grieving, any of this is going to have an application to anyone else. So I would ensure that they know if it's someone who has experienced spiritual abuse, who maybe was Christian before and is now saying that they're not. I, of course, and I'm sure Church Reform Initiative, you probably know this, or I'm just going to say it for the record. I would inform them of this is recorded from a Christian worldview so that they're aware, because there may be different things that are said or that come up that may be like for them a little bit. So I would let them know that. We're very upfront at Be Emboldened that we come from a Christian worldview. We also have clients who are not Christian. I have one-on-one clients who are not Christian. So it's not a requirement for anyone to engage with Be Emboldened in any way that they be Christian. We strictly serve in the area of spiritual abuse. We're very upfront about the lens we're coming from because we know what it's like to be tricked and to be deceived and to be taken advantage of. We're not interested in doing that. We want people to actually make their choice. And so we are, again, upfront so that people can choose if they think we're a good fit or not.
Absolutely. And I think an important thing to note too, correct me if I'm wrong, Naomi, but there is scripture that is mentioned in the digital course. And I believe you very much are very clear about prefacing, you may not believe this and that's okay, but we want to share this is what it says and to clarify that this may have been used in a wrong way. And so let's go back to what does this actually say? So you can see how it was and how it was used wrongly against you. And that is really helpful to let people know about too.
Yes. And that is really prevalent in our other 2 courses that we've done. Can I, like I've already mentioned, and then Rebuilding with Biblical Literacy, which is our second in our rebuilding series. So very prevalent in those. In Rebuilding with Biblical Literacy, we literally have Bibles open and we do practice. And so the reason that's helpful for someone who is a non-Christian is it's important in regards to re-victimization prevention for them to know where the fault goes. If we're putting the fault on the Bible, then we might let the person is not at fault. They were deceived by the Bible. Well, but if the person twisted scripture then that's going to make a difference in who you're going to engage with in the future. You're not going to want someone who is like that. You're going to want to vet them differently. Again, not to say that it was your fault. There's information we did not have before. As we then have that information, it's going to probably influence who we're going to trust, how we're going to go about trusting, and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully I said that clearly. Again, this is not to put the fault on the person who was targeted. The fault is on the person who abused.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thankful for is I've been able to learn to read scripture in a way that allows me to check and makes me less of a target in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, is something that I'm grateful for. So that can be one of the pros. So I do, whenever we have someone who is a non-Christian, I ask, like, is it okay if you say something in reference to Christianity or the Bible? Is it okay if I share with you if it doesn't actually align with what scripture actually says? I've never gotten a no. I'm open to getting a no. That'd be totally fine. But I'm glad that I get yeses, because it's a really helpful practice in them recognizing, oh, wait, this really was that person. Depending on who that person was, the relationship to the individual, it's really painful, really difficult to do. So I say that, like, feeling the weight of it. I had to do that with myself. It was my own father, my own family. But again, if it's what's true, there's an importance to it, and it's going to help with prevention of re-victimization.
Yeah, that's great.
I have also had people then be more open to the idea of Christianity again, which is just a beautiful thing. If they want to choose Jesus, I want them to choose or not choose Jesus based on who he actually is, not based on what some, filter my word choices, person did to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we want people to actually choose. And so that's my heart behind it. I want people to actually choose or not choose Jesus based on who he really is, not based on what some deceiver, liar, perpetrator wanted to say for their own agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Any other questions? Maybe Naomi, do you want to talk about if someone takes this course? We talked about it being $279. Is there any other materials they need to buy to participate in the course?
No, you don't have to get anything else. We do have recommendations. If you're someone who's like, oh, I want to dig in more, I want some additional resources, we do have optional resources listed. And so you are welcome to go check those out. We do a mix of books, podcasts, YouTube videos, because not everyone wants to read a whole book and not everyone wants a podcast. So we have a bit of a variety. So that's optional. It's just there for those who like it. But no, you don't have to do anything else. And you also don't have to pay $279.
Yeah, talk more about that. How would that work out?
Yeah, so there's a couple of options here. So the first one is we have a discount code for anyone who watches this live stream, and it's LiveFree10 off, and that's 10% off. And if you are someone, if you're someone who, some of you may be familiar, some of you, this may be brand new, but we have a program called BE Plus, Be Emboldened Plus. So our BE Plus people are monthly subscribers. It's $24 a month for an individual, $39 a month for a couple. It doesn't have to be a married couple, just two people who can show up on the same screen. So in the same household, or want to gather together, on whatever day it is, and show up together. And so this is another, like, really financially accessible option. And it includes several benefits. The main one that people are most interested in typically are the virtual gatherings. So we meet several times a month. You show up or you don't show up. Like, you just get to decide, and you register if you want to come that day or not. But myself, Anna, and Therese, all three of us on our direct support team. So again, all three having those three criteria: the lived experience, support professional training, biblical and theological training, all three of those. One of us covers each of these, and you get together, just talk about what's going on, like what is on your mind, what are you struggling with, what's happening. Just, it has been an incredible journey with this one, because we actually had to started extending the length from an hour to an hour and a half, because people they're just connecting so well. And I even just had someone this week who's like, oh, I'm excited for the gathering because I want to tell so-and-so about this that happened. And so people are getting to hear other perspectives, similar to the course, where you're getting to hear from other survivors. And it's still facilitated. So there's more of that sense of safety, hopefully, and also someone who can offer some psychoeducation if and when it's relevant and help guide the conversation, facilitate it, get it going, things like that. We also have Lindsay Mendenwalt, who is an apologist. She's an author. She's also just a lovely human being. She does her live streams with us. So if you look back in the archives, you see live streams. Lindsay's on there for quite a few at this point. We've got one coming up in the next month or so. And so she writes a blog for us every month that is exclusive to BE Plus monthly subscribers. You get discounts on courses and things like that. So the reason I mention this is because if you are someone who's watching who is already a BE Plus subscriber, if you're logged in under your BE Plus account when you purchase this, you will get an additional, I think it's 15% off. Do I have that right, Natasha?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's an additional 15% off. So, and it does stack. So you ultimately get 25% off the course. If you are someone who is new to the idea of BE Plus and you want to check it out, you can go to beemboldened.com/BE. So literally the letters BEPLUS, or you'll see it in the header if you want to just go to beemboldened.com and click the link for more information. But yeah, those two will stack. So if you're someone who is interested in BE Plus and it's like, no, I do want some level of connection, not necessarily looking for one-on-one, or that just isn't really what I'm needing or what's going to work for me at this time, it would be a good time to give it a go because again, those two would stack.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. I know we're coming down to our final couple minutes here. Naomi, is there anything else you feel like we really want to hit on? Frequently asked question that you hear a lot about this digital course?
The feedback's just been, the feedback's been incredible. I know we haven't shared testimonies today. I know that sometimes we do. If those are helpful, there are some on the site. So it's belivefreecollective.com. And it's called The Collective because, again, there's more courses coming. So I don't want anyone to have to wait. And I think I'm feeling that right now, just with those who are reaching out and who are in need of support. I don't want anyone to have to wait for support. And so even if you end up doing this course, and we've definitely had this happen, someone goes through this course and then decides, I've got some stuff I do want to process through one-on-one. Great. It doesn't have to be like one and then nothing else. This can be a really, really good place to start. It can be the be all end all. It can be something that you add in. And I've had people also, I've recommended actually to clients before, hey, take this course and then let's us still meet throughout it because it's going to give you all that information. Then we can use our time to process it versus me giving you all the information. That hour will have more time to just process the information. So I don't want people to have to wait. And I truly believe that this is an excellent resource. So please reach out if you have questions about it. If there is a financial burden in participating in the course and registering for the course, we may have some sponsorships available. So please send us an email, hello@beemboldened.com. I want you to be able to take it. So if there's anything I can do to help you be able to take it, and if that is a barrier, please send us an email and I will do everything I can for you to be able to take it. And I mean that. I want you in it. I want you to be able to take this. Yeah. So if you are wanting to, only if you want to take it. If you want to take it, I want you to take it. I want to support you in that. So please send us an email, hello@beemboldened.com, and let us know, hey, I watched the live stream. I want to take the RARA course. Here's what I can contribute. Can you help me with the difference? Let's see what we can do.
Absolutely. I will end with testimony just because I think it's good to hear from people who've taken this and can share. Amy says, thank you for giving me tools I can apply to my daily life. This information is something practical I can use. It is concrete, applicable, measurable, doable. Thank you all for joining today to find out about this course. Again, please use the discount code. If you want to take it, we want you to take it. Email us at hello@beemboldened.com if you have any questions at all. We hope to see you there, and we really do hope that this is as helpful for you as it possibly can be. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks, Naomi, for sharing all about it.
Bye.